How does the court look at corporal punishment and abuse in a child custody case? Hi, I'm Alicia Kinchlow, the owner of Kinchlow Law, a family law practice based in the Philadelphia area. Now, one of the 16 custody factors the court has to consider is past and present abuse between the parties, generally involving the children. Now, when it comes to that particular factor, the court is not just looking at the abuse with regard to the child, but the court can also consider the abuse that encompasses the parties. So, if one party, maybe mother or father, has a protection from abuse order against the other party, or maybe they have it against each other, the court can look at that. And at times, the court may consider what was the reason for the abuse or the alleged abuse that precipitated the protection from abuse order, the length of the order, and how many there have been in the past. Now, it's very important to speak with an attorney licensed in your state about the facts specific to your case, especially in situations like this where we're talking about something as serious as abuse or alleged abuse. Now, at times, the court knows that some people may file protection from abuse claims against the other party in order to use it as a strategy in a custody case or in a divorce case. Now, generally, the number of those types of cases are slim, but the court does recognize that that could happen. And generally, the protection from abuse judge who's hearing the case also can recognize that that might be an issue or might be a strategy, especially when the parties live together and they're married and there needs to be one person outside of the house or to get out of the house. But I will digress on that particular issue. When it comes to protection from abuse orders, especially if they have been entered after a hearing or a trial or by the agreement of the parties, the court will look at that. Now, when it comes to the involvement of just the adults, so just the parties and not the children, so for example, the protection from abuse order is against mom to protect dad, the court will look at structuring a custody order that will generally cause the least amount of contact between the parties. Again, we want to make sure generally that we're honoring the spirit of the protection from abuse order by not having people come into contact with each other. Also, again, an issue you need to discuss with your attorney, but sometimes having contact with the other party, if you are the victim or the plaintiff in the protection from abuse order, can put you in a situation where the other party may apply or petition to have the protection from abuse order dismissed or vacated. So you want to be very careful about the type of contact that you have with the other party. And specifically where there's a child involved, often there is a clause in protection from abuse orders that will discuss custody of a child that the parties have together. It will either say there's no contact, even if the child is not a party of the protection from abuse order, or it will provide information as to how the parties can interact with each other with regard to the custody order, and it won't be a violation for the defendant, and it won't cause the plaintiff or complainant to have that petition be at risk of being vacated or dismissed. So you want to be very careful with regard to that. And again, if there are minor children who are not going to be part of the actual petition, so it's not filed on behalf of them and it does not include them specifically, you want to make sure that you try to get the judge at the time of the hearing, if it's appropriate, to address the custody issue and issue a temporary order until there's another order by the custody court. Now, the situation is different where the protection for abuse order or complaint is filed on behalf of the child. So let's say that mom threatened the child or has hit the child or done something else. And we're not going to talk about involvement of an agency like Department of Human Services or Children and Youth Services. We're talking specifically about one parent going through protection from abuse court in order to get a protection from abuse order. Now, if the court enters that on behalf of the child, the custody court is going to be very careful as to how they craft a custody order that allows for any contact with the child as long as that petition is either pending or there has been a finding and it has not yet expired. So the court is going to treat that with very, very delicately. So it's important to understand that. Now, again, that particular custody factor we're talking about, past and present abuse, the court is going to consider not just what's going on, but what has also happened in the past. The court understands the nature generally of domestic violence, where sometimes it's a cycle that repeats itself. There are good and bad times, and sometimes victims have a hard time kind of pulling away. Sometimes it's difficult for children to remain consistent in their testimony. So the court is going to look at the full picture and then decide what is in the best interest of the children, and sometimes put certain things in there like supervised custody for the a party that's determined to be the abuser. They may order no contact physically, maybe just telephone, and perhaps limits on the telephone contact to prevent verbal or emotional abuse. Um, the court can suspend custodial rights pending an evaluation or therapy or counseling, anger management, drug and alcohol screening. So the court has a wide berth of things that they can do in order to make sure, try to make sure, that the child, above all, is safe. Because, of course, this is all regarding what's in the best interest of the child or children in the case. And the court can also consider the abuse in the household. So again, if there's an abusive party in the household, maybe dad's new girlfriend has been abusive, and maybe not even to the child in question. Maybe she lost her own children due to neglect or something else. The court can consider that as well, because the court is going to look at, again, what's in the best interest of the child and where that child is going to be. So it's not just the parties who are involved, but also who they allow to be around the children. And again, it doesn't have to be directly regarding that particular child. It can be other children or people that have been the victims of abuse at the hands of the parties or people in their household. Um, and then the court is going to look at other things too. Again, not just where there's been a protection from abuse order or a Department of Human Services or Children and Youth Services involvement. The court can look at other allegations of abuse, either made by the child or the parent or someone else in the child's life, teachers, and evaluate whether and how there should be any contact, physical or otherwise, with the child, or any other resources employed in order to repair that relationship and protect the child. So again, a highly sensitive issue. We want to be very careful. There is a new Senate bill. I'm going to talk about that in a video this coming week that seeks to protect children. Unfortunately, a child was murdered at the hands of her parent, and it involved a custody issue. It involved some custody evaluations. We're not going to get into today, what decision was made or whether the judge made the right decision at the time, but it does seek to put in place some additional parameters to try to protect the child where there's been allegations of abuse. So we're going to talk about that Senate bill in another video and provide that information to you in a link so you can take a look at that and follow along with it. And perhaps whether you agree with it or disagree or have proposed changes, you can be involved in how that progresses along in the legislature in Pennsylvania. All right, so if you have any comments about this video or any other topics that you would like us to cover on custody, divorce, and support, please put them in the comments below. Make sure that you hit subscribe and hit the little notification bell so that each time we drop a new video, especially this other video we're going to talk about when it comes to that new Senate bill, you'll want to make sure that you hit the notification bell so that you'll get a notification and not miss a single video. All right, until next time, take care.